Hi, I'm Shabba-Doo, and you're listening to Harv Roman.
WCGO Radio, Chicago Goes for Club Kids Radio and Celebrity Hotline Conversations. In the back of your head right now is Nyasia and DJ Paradise, and also Wendy with a remake of a classic Carolyn Town song entitled 99 and a Half that is off the Tasmania Records album This Is Me. Nyasia and Paradise were in studio not that long ago, and we did a very, very cool interview. And if you wanted to check that out, you would check it out at www.wakeupdancing.com, because they're not going to be on the radio today. I am excited by who's going to be on the radio today. I have been waiting to air this interview. We put up a YouTube tease for you where we had 2 segments of our special celebrity hotline guest this morning with a tease, because it's been almost 2 weeks since we taped the conversation. And we had other things going on the radio with Patty Vasquez last week and her DVD release party this week with the Club Kids. So we are finally able to bring you full-length 1 hour celebrity hotline conversation. And I'm telling you right now that 1 hour will probably still not contain all the words and all the music of our celebrity hotline guests. Ladies and gentlemen, Adolfo, Shabba-Doo, Quinones on the celebrity hotline. Yay! I'm getting a kick out of this conversation. First, I appreciate you making the phone call and taking time out to talk to us here at WCGO Radio. 48 years old am I, and when I found out that this was going to be a reality, I actually got geeked up about it.
Really?
Well, because the original Breaking movie came out in 1984. I had just finished high school at Wells. I don't know if you recall Wells High School. And so I was done there in 81, and I'm working at the Boys and Girls Club. And back then the movie blew up, and you had made an appearance at the grammar school that I guess you went to, which I also went to, and the kids were talking about you, and you became a role model for them. You became a legend for them. You became a hero to them. And I've seen you on screen, and I never really thought that at some point I'd be having a conversation with you. And I'm really not certain why I didn't pursue it until now. So I guess I owe you an apology, and then I owe you some gratitude for the celebrity conversation.
Well, no apology needed. Things happen as they should. We're having this conversation because it was the right time. Incidentally, I did go to Wales for a little bit.
So you had some Blue Raider in you before you went, huh?
Right. So, I went to Wales for a little bit in Chicago.
Well, I'll tell you how this conversation the seed was planted. I was with the Union League Boys and Girls Club from the time I was 9 years old, and then I put in a 30-year career there, including as a program director and as a club director. And one of my former kids, he was a Youth of the Year in the late 90s, he posted on my Facebook recently a Soul Train clip from 1979, and he was all excited about the Silvers hotline, so he puts it on my wall. And within 3 seconds, you're in that clip, and you were gone. And I said, wait a minute, I know that guy. And so his name is Louis Garcia, and I said, Louis, that's Shabba-Doo, that's from the Breaking movie. He went to Talcott School, and he had no idea, and of course he didn't believe me. And then I said, you know, he went to Talcott once, and he said that he was there in the audience when you went back to Talcott and performed for them, and then talked about, you know, the movie which came out, 26 years ago, 28 years ago.
Yeah, we're approaching a 30-year anniversary.
Are you guys planning to do anything to mark the occasion of this movie?
There isn't anything formally planned. However, we've been thinking about it with some promoters and things like that, but nothing formal. I've been using a lot of time focusing on getting another Breaking picture made and produced. So I've written the screenplay treatment for it. And I did take a meeting with MGM and a couple of other top-notch production companies here in Los Angeles. And we'll just see what happens.
You know, talking about your movie back then, one of my favorite images that I saw when I was on your own Facebook page, and you had an image of the movie posters for Beat Street and Breaking. And then at the same time, you have the images for Stepping Up and Stepping Off and whatever those movies are. And your point was, and it became a pretty good conversation piece, that back when you did it, they were getting genuine dancers, not necessarily actors, to play the roles. And then when the whole Step Up thing starts happening, then you got Channing Tatum, not necessarily a dancer.
Yeah, exactly. And we've gone really off message. The whole street dance culture, as we know it, hip-hop, if you will, was started by inner-city kids, Latinos and blacks in America. And I find it, really a slap in our face that we're not, prominent in that market. What they've done is they essentially removed all of us. We're good enough to create the movements, but we're not good enough to be the stars of those films, and it's a shame. Now, when I say we, of course, I don't fit that mold, and I've certainly had my success in making films, but with respect to the new films that are out today, they really don't give the kind of attention necessary to inner city kids who are really doing all the work. These guys are coming in, essentially taking over our hard work, and it just hit me in the pit of my stomach, and so I put up the poster to show how far away we've gone from, the early 70s to now. It's like it's completely Cloroxed, bleached.
And the interesting thing is, a lot of times the storylines have to do with the kid from the other side of the tracks or the one that moved into the suburbs. And so they've kind of got the storylines down because maybe they did some research, but then they'll get the formerly trained actors and not the ones whose feet actually have hit those streets.
Yeah, and it's all formula based. I mean, you see, a lot of situations in the type of street dance films they're making now, like the Step Up films, or in Europe they have a franchise there called Street Dance. Here's a film called Street Dance, but they don't really have street dancers in those lead roles. You have some guy who looks like he's posing for and a girl that they're posing for Dirty Dancing or something. I mean, I challenge anybody to tell me that they can go to a hip-hop club or an underground club and you're going to see those kinds of depictions. They just don't exist.
Well, I will talk about, there was a movie called Go For It, which was filmed here in Chicago with Gina Rodriguez, who is from Chicago, and Amy Garcia, also from Chicago. And it was interesting to watch that film because it was filmed here, and they kind of did a little bit of the street dance thing, a little bit of the club thing. But the good thing was that they used people like Gina and Amy to be in it, and so they were able to use them as resources. And then the woman who wrote it and produced it, Carmen Maron, was also from Logan Square herself, so there was some credibility to it. Plus it got filmed here, so it wasn't in Toronto somewhere trying to look like Chicago. I will talk about, there was a movie called Go For It, which was filmed here in Chicago with Gina Rodriguez, who is from Chicago, and Amy Garcia, also from Chicago. And it was interesting to watch that film because it was filmed here, and they kind of did a little bit of the street dance thing, a little bit of the club thing. But the good thing was that they used people like Gina and Amy to be in it, and so they were able to use them as resources. And then the woman who wrote it and produced it, Carmen Maron, was also from Logan Square herself, so there was some credibility to it. Plus it got filmed here, so it wasn't in Toronto somewhere trying to look like Chicago.
Right, Toronto to shoot, or Chicago, there you go.
Yeah, but isn't that what usually happens, Adolfo? They go somewhere else and they call it your town?
Yeah, right.
Let's
People in Chicago are looking at it and going, hey, we've never seen those buildings before.
There's a maple leaf over there. What does that mean? Harv Roman talking to Adolfo Shabba-Doo Quinones. One thing we had in common, and when I started pursuing this interview, we compared notes, and you were a Talcott School student, which is literally about a block from where we're sitting right now. Do you recall your days at Talcott? One of the reasons why I called you a legend and a hero is because you've been at it for so long, and you've done so well, and then you become a hero because a lot of the kids that wanted to follow in your footsteps and have done a lot of the things that you've done in terms of dance, if not for the street dance culture, we don't know where a lot of these kids would have turned up. I know my cousin was one of those break dancers back in the day, and they used to be at the Boys and Girls Club. They'd go up to the third floor and they'd spin on cardboard or on the floor and do all their moves. And at that point, everybody used to crowd around and watch them. And when they would do this outside, everybody thought it was a big problem, it was a big fight going on, when all it was a dance battle. People don't settle things that way anymore.
No, they don't. The entire street dance culture and hip-hop culture has been turned on its head. It's not at all what it means or what it was meant to be. It was about inner city kids finding a voice and being able to express themselves in a positive way. And now it's just about, it's no more about connection, it's more about compensation. You know, how much money am I going to make? Or you look at all the things I'm able to buy. Look at my car. Look at my clothes. Things that don't really matter. A kid asked me once, he said, you know, what's the difference between your pictures, your films, and the films that are released today? I said, one of the things that really ring out to me is films today, again, are about look what I have and about association. I'm somebody because I danced for Usher. I'm somebody because I danced with Justin Timberlake. Or I'm somebody if I dance in a music video.
Isn't that amazing that you could have somebody who's a dancer who all of a sudden is a celebrity thanks to reality TV, and then they may not even be
somebody because by association. I'm somebody because Usher is someone, and I'm just associated with Usher's fame. But no one is really making fame on their own. They don't have any sort of recognition of their own. They didn't build anything from the ground up. They're just merely coming in and capitalizing on something that was already built. So the difference between those films having that kind of message and the films that I made is when we made our films, it was more about we have something to say. We have a voice. Listen to us. We're somebody. We have something that's unique, and we should be valued. And when you think about it, that's the very reason why we're talking about a film that was produced nearly 3 decades ago, but it still resonates with the people because it touches them on a visceral level. It's not about, look at all the wonderful things they have. And again, the character I played, like Ozone. I mean, I was living in a garage, for crying out loud. In the film, I was living in a garage. I barely had any money. Turbo didn't have any money. We were poor kids, but we had a wealth of talent. Now you see these films. Now you see them, with these clothes that, most kids can't even afford, You can totally tell that they're just like costume designers creating these looks for them, but they're not created by the dancers themselves organically, if you know what I mean.
Now, well, back then, you guys set the trend with a lot of the outfits and the wardrobe that you used, and I'm assuming that a lot of it was just what you would have normally worn anyway, movie or not so much. But back then, people started wrapping the bandanas around their legs, and the guys were wearing belly shirts before Madonna. They just don't admit it anymore, but that's what you guys were doing. And the fashion trend that you sent back then, was that your own, or was that scripted, or how did that work out?
Oh yeah, the bandanas. I must say, and take the credit for that. I was the one that started doing that. I started tying the bandanas around my waist and around my ankles, and there was a reason behind it. I started wearing the bandanas around my ankle to emulate spats that were worn by dancers in the 1940s.
Oh wow!
The waistband, or when I tied a bandana around my waist, was to emulate heroes of mine when I was growing up watching television, like Zorro and things like that. So when you think about it, all those costumes, or they weren't even costumes, they were our regular clothes. Believe it or not, I used to go to the grocery store dressed like I was in the movie. Those clothes in the movie were my own clothes.
Now, did you get your wardrobe credit when the credits rolled up? I'm going to have to rewind that and look for it.
I didn't get the credit for it, but when I walked in and I met the producers for the film, I was dressed like I was in the movie.
Let me ask you this then. I mean, we'll go back to talking about, Chicago and whatnot, but now that we're talking about the movie, that was one of those movies that I would imagine had to get shopped around and shopped around and shopped around before somebody said, you know what, let's go ahead and do this, because back then you didn't see those types of movies. It's like you started off those types of movies, and then Beach Street comes along, and then everything blows up. But before Breaking came out, you didn't see a lot of that. You saw the typical,
Saturday Night Fever.
The best that I had.
this then. I mean, we'll go back to talking about, Chicago and whatnot, but now that we're talking about the movie, that was one of those movies that I would imagine had to get shopped around and shopped around and shopped around before somebody said, you know what, let's go ahead and do this, because back then you didn't see those types of movies. It's like you started off those types of movies, and then Beach Street comes along, and then everything blows up. But before Breaking came out, you didn't see a lot of that. You saw the typical, I don't know.
Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah, exactly.
You had some Caucasian male in the lead role who was supposed to be the dynamite dancer in the nightclub. Now, that never took place.
Well,
Such a thing never really happened.
Well, here's an even funnier thing, Adolfo. When you look at...
John Travolta may be a great actor or what have you, but he can't dance.
No, well, that's what I was going to say. When you look at those steps now... And
tell you what, if John Travolta had went into the neighborhood dancing like that, he would have got his butt whooped.
That's my point. I used to play that. I used to play that, and I used to play the Warriors for the kids at the club, because I would say, I'm going to play a gangbanging movie, and then we play the Warriors. Or I used to play West Side Story. A couple times a year, I'd play West Side Story, get them all excited about, they're going to see a gangbanging movie, and then I'm playing the Jets versus the Sharks, but I did that with a purpose. But back when Travolta came out, and even now, the kids that look at him now, if you go on YouTube, they're going to look at him and they're going to say, what the heck is this guy doing? On the other hand, you can still go to a club, you can still go to a schoolyard, and you'll still see kids pulling out cardboard and doing the things that you used to do.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't even say used to do. I saw a clip on your website in which you were surrounded by kids that looked like they may have been 9 or 10 years old, and you put some footwork on them, and I don't know what what the concept was. I don't know if somebody just happened to shoot while you guys were doing this thing, but it almost was as if they're saying, man, you're just a teacher, you don't know what you're doing, and then all of a sudden you had to prove yourself.
Yeah. Things are just so different, and not for the better, mind you. They've gotten progressively worse.
That's an interesting comment you make, because
the dancing is not getting better. People think that it's getting better because more people are doing it, but if you actually look at the quality of it, they're not getting any better. Only because, and here's my theory, there's a reason why we don't marry our own sisters and brothers and things, because we must have a separation of bloodline in order for our bloodlines and our bodies to be healthy. What's happening now is a person will make, numerous postings of video clips on social networks, YouTubes, what have you, and then you just have a bunch of people just copying them. So people copying a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. You never get anything really original. All you get is just a bunch of people copying. Look at everybody today. If you think about the 70s, look at the way we were in Break-In or Beat Street or any of that kind of stuff. You saw individuality. Look at Melly Mel. Look at Grandmaster Flash. Look at these icons in hip hop. Everybody looked different. Now, what do they look like now? Don't we know the hip hop uniform now? It's a baseball cap, a baggy T-shirt, baggy shorts, and a pair of sneakers, and everybody looks alike.
So is there anybody now that you could say you respect what they do on stage when it comes to dance, or you're just saying, you know what, it's 2012, they're doing what they're doing, I'm going to do what I do?
A little bit of both. They do what they do, I do what I do. Although there are some outstanding people out there who I've met in my travels that I think embodies the same spirit that we had, and are striving to be unique in their own way. One is here in Los Angeles or the West Coast. Lockadelic is certainly doing some wonderful things. Locking, I think she's quite gifted at what she does. I've been to London. I met a handful of quality people there. Namely, I've seen Brooke Milliner, who I think has great promise. I've seen another gentleman named goes by the name of Tiger. He's a leader of a group called Storytellers. And I was really taken by this guy because he was striving to do something different. Within his routines, he would tell these little stories and things, and I thought, oh, okay, that's closer to the way we were acting. There is a young lady who's part of my instructor program, Karina Best. I think is doing some wonderful things. She does my Shui style and an official instructor in London. Along with, I'm going to be training a young lady named Dee Wackataz, or Dee Fox, I think she goes by the name of, and another young lady from Swansea named Lee Murray, who are striving to do what's right. Grace Huxtable. When I say do what's right, mind you, I mean really striving to express themselves with dance and sees themselves as a unique being. There's also, and if there's anyone else I've forgotten, there's another gentleman named Marcus Tucker who I really like, who I think is striving to be unique. There are, again, there's not that many of them, and so if I missed anyone out there, I apologize, because I think there are some really good ones out there, just that their names escape me at the moment. But those are a few that I thought were a couple standouts in the London area, UK specifically.
That was an interesting debate that I saw.
Oddly enough, it's the younger generation, kids who are like about 13, 14, that are really, really stepping up to the plate, doing more so than the generation before them.
You're flashing back to Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. You're there. You're there as the Boogaloo Shrimp tries to jump in front of a truck that wants to knock down the Miracles Children's Center. Just close your eyes and think about it. And then they do the show. And then the song plays. And all of the street dancers, including our very guest this Saturday morning, Adolfo Shabba-Doo Quinones, is leading the dancing parade. If you have not seen it yet, you need to. I don't know if you can rent it or not. You're just going to have to go buy it. Pick it up. Go on YouTube. Do something. That is George Cram's music with the Dindada song. What a killer cut that was, and they had that featured in that song. It was one of my personal favorite songs, and there it is again in my head. We also heard music from Carolyn Towns, 99.5. Ollie and Jerry with Ain't No Stopping Us. Not the other one that I was thinking of in my head a second ago. And then at the top of the hour was Naija and DJ Paradise and Wendy with an all-new version of 99.5 off the Tasmania record label. Very, very cool version of 99.5, just to be a little bit more contemporary. My name is Harv Roman, and the Breakicitos coming just a couple of minutes early. I'm getting a kick out of this interview. It is such a cool little interview. So rather than me continue to talk, I have to do a scroll call in a second. So we will take our breakcito and we return more. Club Kids Radio, more Adolfo Shabba-Doo Quinones, and of course our scroll call.
Alex Rodriguez of the New York Yankees talks about the Boys and Girls Clubs.
When I was 9, my mom had to work 2 full-time jobs to keep our family together. She didn't get home till 11. The streets were there, but for my sake, so was the Boys and Girls Club.
The Boys and Girls Club is a positive place for kids to go every day after school, to do homework, make friends, and play ball.
Eddie Rodriguez ran the Boys and Girls Club in my neighborhood, and he still does today. He taught me to believe in myself, to be positive, stay grounded, and to keep my eye on the ball. I still come back to train at the Boys and Girls Club. With Eddie, he's like a father to me.
There are more than 3,000 Boys and Girls Clubs where caring people like Eddie are helping our kids succeed.
Does it work? It did for me. Support the Boys and Girls Clubs, the positive place for kids.
Call 1-800-854-CLUB.
Wake up, wake up, dancing. Wake up, wake up, dancing. Wake up, dancing. Harv is gonna make you dance. Wake up, dancing. Wake up, wake up, dancing. Wake up, dancing. Wake up, Harv is gonna make you dance.
That's me here at 1590 AM WCGO Radio in Chicago, where Chicago glows, and they glow, and they go, and they grow. On the Celebrity Hotline Conversation, wow, the scroll call list is so long, and it began early in the week when I talked about this particular interview and how it was going to air. And then it continued when I put a tease up on YouTube with a couple of interview segments that you're about to hear, and then everybody clickety-clicks and gets a kick out of it. So there are so many of you. Adolfo himself, Suzette, Denise. Thanks to everybody, by the way. I posted a medical update on myself. You can read it, and you posted, so thank you. Louis, Amanda, Marbella, Kathy, Anthony, Alex, Alexis, Ricardo, his dad, his sister, Anthony. I met them all downtown at the Disabled Parade, which was a very, very cool thing to do. Nancy, Cora, Yvette, Kelly, Michael, Jackie, Jasmine, Chris, Primitivo, Louis, the R guy, Kelly, Mari, Millie, Veronica, Nadine, Claudia, Maritza, Teresa, Gina, Martin, Zizi, Shelly, Nikki, Lisa, Anaceli, and then off of Shabba-Doo's website, click the clicks we got from Carlos, Leticia, Lou, Go, and Jennifer. They clicked over at the Adolfo Shabba-Doo Quinones Facebook, and Anissa, Isaac, and Tracy also clicked off as they watched the YouTube tease that Shabba-Doo very coolly put on his own website. We've got 28 minutes before the top of the hour. I know that we have more than 28 minutes of conversation, so we'll probably go into next week with some more with Adolfo Shabba-Doo Quinones. But in the meanwhile, if you remember this video, you would see Shabba-Doo and Shaka Khan as we rock her Shaka Khan. We'll be right back.
Baby, when I look at you, I know
could I not play the Lambada song? In case you don't know, Adolfo Shabba-Doo Quinones and Eddie Peck in Lambada, the Forbidden Dance movie. You need to look at that one too. It is a cool timepiece with some really cool music and some interesting scenes, like dancing and almost violence, but not quite. Let us continue with our conversation with Adolfo Shabba-Doo Quinones. Well, in the meanwhile, you're flashing back to the Lambada song.
And they come in with the right kind of mindset. Hey, they want to learn from someone like me or some others that are original, but they're striving to find their own way. So, there's some out there, and it's not a total wash, but I don't think we're there yet.
Well, you remind me a bit of Michael Jordan, in which he had that clause, love of the game, into the contract with the Bulls when he was over here, and basically the contract says whenever he wants to play ball, he's going to play ball. And when I hear you talk about dancing, when I hear you talk about some of these names that may not be known to the average public, it seems like these are the same types that you're talking about. It's the love of the game. It's something that you would do regardless of whether you were going to make a living at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us about your start here in Chicago. When I mentioned that you're a Chicago kid, most people have no idea that's true. So you were here young, and then you moved on, I guess?
Yeah, I actually moved out of Chicago. My mom moved us out to the West Coast. I was about 16 years old. And, of course, I was mixed up in some gang activities and things in in Chicago. And my mom felt it would be best if we relocated.
Well, a lot of people have no idea. If you came back to the city now and you looked at the community you grew up with that surrounds Talcott School, it has changed so much that you may not recognize it, because it's become what they call a desired, community to live in. And back then, you grew up a few years older than I am, but I remember, we used to have conflicts. It was the Puerto Ricans against the group that wasn't quite the Puerto Ricans, and you're right, it was a lot of gangs. And back then, you even had, a lot of the Italian kids were some of the mafia kids that were also trying to make their own way in the neighborhood. It was not a fun place to grow up.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a fun place to grow up, but I have some fond memories of Talcott, namely my teacher, Mrs. Fisher.
Oh, yeah, I remember it. She was in 309. I remember her.
Fisher, I love Mrs. Fisher. There was also the Boys Club a couple of blocks away.
When I mentioned that to my kid in Florida, I told him that I had told you that, do you remember the building, across the way, the Boys and Girls Club? And you said you actually did. So, there may have been a time that you spent some time at the Boys and Girls Club.
No, I spent a lot of time at the Boys Club, and you know what? Maybe you can help me one day. I would love to. He may not even be alive, and I often speak of this man. We meet people in our lives that change our lives, and we don't know why they come into our lives, but they give us, encouragements that we need. And I credit this man for what I've been able to achieve as a professional dancer. Even though he wasn't a dancer, I was a shy kid, if you can imagine. No. Skinny, shy. I had a lot of self-doubt. I wasn't very confident. I was, raised in a single family with just my mom. My dad was, God knows where. My dad was a career criminal.
Wow.
And doing whatever. And I would go to the Boys Club during, after school and do my study work and play bumper pool or what have you. And one day I was standing in a room. The billiard room was upstairs.
Right.
And I think the gentleman's name is John. Anyway, he worked there. He wore glasses. I think he's an Italian-looking man. He asked me one day, "Hey, do you know how to shoot pool?" And I said, "No." And he says, "It's really easy. Let me show you." And he says, I said, "Well, I can't really play. I don't know how to play pool." And he says, "Let me show you how it goes. What's your name?" And I said, "Adolfo." He said, okay, Adolfo, this is how you do it. I want you to bend over, and I want you to look at the pool ball. I want you to look at this cue ball. And I looked at it, and he said, see the ball behind it that's right by the pocket? I said, yes. He said, all you need to do is hit that ball into that other ball, and that other ball will go into the pocket. But you need to see it from the viewpoint of the table. And he said, he gives me the stick. He shows me how to bridge, how to hold the stick. And, you know, I hit the ball, as he told me, and it went in. And I was like, oh my God. I didn't say that to him, but inside I was like, oh my God, I actually hit it in, you know? And he was like, yeah, you did it. You know, you could be really good at this. We have pool. We teach pool here every day after school. And why don't you start coming by and we'll play together? Well, eventually that relationship turned into me, you know, practicing every day after school, and I got pretty good at it, and I won a trophy in my division.
Oh, wow.
I eventually went on to be, you know, a little pool champion. I won a trophy, and I think the football player, I think Gail Sayers, came by to give out the awards for that.
Yeah,
and the point I'm making is he gave me a confidence in myself that I hold in my heart to this very day.
That is.
I can actually do something. All I need to do, or that I could actually do whatever I wanted to do, but all I really needed to do is understand how things work. And when you understand how things work, and you have someone who has patience enough to actually take their time and show you how things work, you can achieve whatever you need in life. So I take the spirit of that man that day and to every classroom and every workshop. Achieve whatever you need in life. So I take the spirit of that man that day and to every classroom and every workshop.
That is an awesome story because
I'm getting a little emotional about it, but I take that story and I take what he gave me into every workshop in every corner of the world that I travel, and I instill in people the ability to have them believe in themselves, that they can actually do it, that all they need is for somebody to take the time to believe in them and to show them how things work. And I owe that to John. I do. And if I got his name wrong, I don't mean to do that, but that man really shaped my life, and I owe him a lot. He was, in a lot of ways, the father that I always wish I had, that someone that stood behind me and believed in me.
That is an incredible story.
So it's you know, and so Chicago, that guy, if you ever found him, if wherever he is in this universe, somewhere on a cosmic plane, if he could hear this message, I want to thank him for what he did.
Well, I'll do what I can. The director of that very same Boys and Girls Club recently retired after 42 years, back in April, and we're still in contact. And he was the one that became my mentor. He was the one that gave me my job when I was 11 years old as $1 an hour in the locker boy, and then eventually I grew up to become a club director myself, and we remained in contact, and we did a big retirement party for him back in April. And I'm going to try to find out who this John was, because Leo got there in 1970, and he didn't retire until April. So if anybody knows who John in the games room was, it would be Leo. I was a few years behind you, so when I got to the games room as a kid, I've had people like Barth and Solis, so John may have already, have gone through those clubs. But I used to tell staff people this all the time. The kids might not tell you right then and there the type of impact you're having. They show up every day, and that's their way of telling you, but maybe when they hit 25, 30 years old, or when they have their own kids, that's when they start saying, you know what? That person made a big difference in my life. And it's so awesome to hear you tell that type of story, because I've told the same types of stories about Leo and people at the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, and it's important that we continue to tell and share these stories with people so that they know. And young people, if you're listening out there, there's someone upstairs from you. There's probably someone at the grocery store who will be that spark for you. And you may not be getting it at home. It may not come from home. It may not come from the person that you expect it to come from. But love and encouragement and belief in someone can come from most anywhere. And for me, it came from the Boys Club of America.
Wow, I am proud to share that lineage with you. I threw it out there because you could see the building from Talcott, but not everybody that was a Talcott kid was a club kid, and I'm proud to say that you were both, and that it had an impact on you. It's pretty interesting, the stories that you tell, because you've accomplished so much and you've done so well that my guess is, with some of the kids that you're teaching, or some of the kids that you just run into when you go visit a school or something, they'll say things to you like, man, you don't know what it's like, man, you got money, and they have no idea that you walked in those same shoes that they're wearing.
Is that Boys Club still there?
The building is still there. It's now getting renovated. It was sold a few years ago, and they moved the club actually into Talcott School, and then they just moved out of Talcott to go to Clemente. But the building is still there, and they're actually now turning it into, it's going to be a school for challenged youth, kids with special needs. So it didn't turn into a loft building. It didn't turn into a bunch of condominiums. It's going to turn into a school for special needs kids.
I don't mean to cut you off, but when you said that, and I don't want to forget, that you just touched on a personal dream of mine. I had a thought a few years back, maybe it was a half a dozen years back now. I really want and see the need to have a special needs hip-hop event for kids to compete in dancing. I would love to see that one day, where kids who are blind or deaf or have some physical impairment to be able to enjoy dance and to be able to compete and battle, if you will, or whatever, what have you, and enjoy the same kinds of successes that full-bodied, well-abled people around the world are enjoying. For some reason, they're not really part of it. I see it as being a sort of Special Olympics version, hip-hop version of the Special Olympics.
That would be an awesome idea, and if I can help you...
Maybe one day we'll do it in Chicago. We'll launch it in Chicago. That would be great.
If we could brainstorm something like that, because I told the people, I went in there and I met the foreman, and he told me what they were doing with the building, and I was glad. The occasion actually was, we got the street, Walcott Avenue, was named after Leo, the director that just retired after 42 years. And I talked to the foreman who was doing the work, and he told me what they were doing with the building. And I says, you know what? I live close enough, and I work at a charter school now, that when they're finished, whenever they're finished with that building, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to offer to volunteer my services, because within those same walls was the impact that was given to me, and the impact that was given to you as well. So if there's anything I can do to help you fulfill that dream, it would be an honor.
Yeah, we start with the dream, and we plant seeds, and we see where it can take root. So for me, it would hold some sort of spiritual connection for it to be launched in Chicago, since my hometown.
Move your body, sexy body. Move your body, move your body. Move your body. Move it's gonna set you free. Move your body. Move it's gonna set you free.
roots. So for me, it would hold some sort of spiritual connection for it to be launched in Chicago, since my hometown.
Hey, wasn't it your movie? One of the movies in which they did have somebody that was on crutches that was shown. I mean, it happened kind of quick if you weren't looking, but there was somebody that was spinning around and doing
Handyman.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's a scene where I told Kelly, let me show you what real dancing is about.
I remember that, and I guess not enough people focused on that. I'm remembering it now because you're talking about it. There are a lot of...
Okay, well, great. We see that guy right there, Handyman. He's the prototype of what I'm talking about. Wouldn't it have been wonderful to have a crew of dancers like Handyman that may have, many different impairments, but be really awesome and have like some of the top dancers in the street dance hip hop world to be able to mentor those kids, and choreograph them, you certainly have people like, Crazy Legs, you have Ken Swift, Stefan Clemente, Mr. Wiggles. These types of people, in my mind, would be like the coaches for certain crews that were physically challenged or in some way, and to vie for sponsorships and trophies, and it would just be a great self-esteem builder for some of these kids. And music is such a powerful force, and dancing is such a powerful occupation, activity. It would give, I think, a lot of those kids a needed shot in the arm,
Well, it's interesting because you shot pool, which was something that may not have always been considered to be cool, because the cool kids when I was at the club were down in the gym or swimming or whatever, and then we're upstairs shooting pool because we're not quite the athlete.
I wasn't a good athlete.
And then you become a street dancer, so to speak. And again, it's one of those things where if you were out playing football or basketball or baseball, then maybe you don't do the dancing. The things that you've been involved with in some way, shape, or form kind of has a common denominator of, I'm not quite fitting in here, so now I'm going to try to fit in there. And I don't know if it was a conscious effort on your part, but look at what's happened.
Yeah. Again, when you're living your life in real time, you're just living your life. Only in retrospect do we see the impact that we have on people's lives, on this culture or whatever. I didn't think that I was going to grow up and be Shabba-Doo or anything like that. I was just again a skinny kid from Chicago, and I would have just been happy to have a good job or something, and I wasn't even, any notion of being, famous or anything like that just seemed outrageous. And even when I got here to LA, and I could dance and things like that, but I never thought that I was going to be the man or any of that stuff.
It is so interesting how
it turned out, and a sequence of events have catapulted me into this position, and a position that I take very seriously, because I know it could have been the next guy, but for some reason I was chosen, and I'm grateful for that. So I take my work very serious.
And that's
some people mistake me because they think, well, Shabba-Doo is a bit of a tough guy or hard guy. And I'm really not, I'm a bit of a love guy, and I just love really, really hard, and some people unfortunately misconstrue my need to be the best that I could be, and hope for other people to be the best that they can be as being a person that's intolerant, when in fact I'm not. I just believe that we're all so capable of tremendous feats. And we're always one moment away from the success that we always hope for, and or successes that we never dreamed we would possible that we would have.
Well,
so I am an embodiment of of a dream. I am that guy. So if kids out there listening to this, you never know when your time is up. You never know when it's your turn. Just be ready. Always be ready.
Well, here's the thing, too. I mean, you didn't roll out of bed one day and you're spinning on your head and you're pop-locking and all of a sudden you're world famous. The thing that stands out about you, and you've done this thing for more than 30 years, you work hard at it. You know,
actually, it's been 40 years.
Holy smoke. You know what? You're right. It has been since the 70s. That's a lot of decades of service. I won't say it out loud so that we don't feel, that we're as old as we actually are. But
okay, I'm proud of my age. I'm not one of those people, even though I look much younger than my age, I'm proud of my age. I lived every moment of my life, and some of it has been really fantastic, and some of it has been, painful. I mean, when you're growing and you make mistakes, they're painful, they're disappointing, but it's my life, and good or bad, right or wrong, it's my life. So I'm not the type of person that say, well, I'm this age or that age because I want to sound like I'm a younger guy. I'm 57 years old, and I lived every moment of it, and I plan on living every moment of it until the day I can't. And I'm going to live that life, and I want to leave this life when I leave with nothing left. I want to leave with my pockets empty. I want to say I spent it all. That I gave everything that I had, and I had nothing left when I left.
But now he's with somebody new. What does love want me to do? Now music plays. He tried pretending our dance is just a dance, but I see he's dancing his way.
When I leave with nothing left, I want to leave with my pockets empty. I want to say I spent it all. That I gave everything that I had, and I had nothing left when I left.
It's interesting now because now I'm flashing back to the second Breaking movie, and they had to save Miracles, and Miracles was this youth center that you guys were part of because you were teaching the kids and you're preparing the next generation. In 2012, you're doing the same thing. You're still preparing the next generation. You're still working with people. You still have a passion for what you are doing, and what you're doing now too is you're putting that passion into other people.
Yes, that's what I do. That's the future. That's my immortality. My immortality is going to lie and exist, rather, within the people that I have come in contact with, that have taken some of the things I've given them and have made themselves better. So in that way, in my mind, I will live forever.
We'll be back with more Club Kids Radio.
Wow, look at the time. It is just about time for us to fly. My thanks to Adolfo, Shabba-Doo, Quinones. We've heard music from Marshall Jefferson, Mr. Lee, the Lambada theme, and Shannon in the background. And we are just about bumping up against the top of the hour. So next Saturday, 6 in the morning, we will finish this exclusive interview with Adolfo Shabba-Doo Quinones. If you missed any of this one, go to www.wakeupdancing.com. If you want to see the tease and all of his pictures, go to YouTube. In the meanwhile, Shannon finishes it up. Thank you all.